Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the God Attachment Healing Podcast. I'm excited that you're here, as always. And today is going to be a very exciting episode because it's the first of its kind. The way that this episode was created was actually from a submission that someone did through the Buzzsprout site. So there's a section in there. It's called fan mail, and I'll show you guys in a little bit how to kind of get there if you guys are watching the video. But basically, when you go and listen on iTunes, on the Apple Podcast, there's a section right under the title of the podcast, and it says, send me questions or comments about the podcast. Send me attachment questions, things like that. And I have someone who used it. And it's really exciting because when I got the notification, I was like, oh, this is cool. I thought it was a review of the podcast, and it happened to be a question. And I'm excited about it because obviously it has to deal with attachment, and it's from a guy named Jameson from North Carolina. And so, Jameson, if you're listening, this podcast is for you, man. And I hope that you enjoy it. I'm sorry that's taken so long to get to it, but it's here, and I'm excited for you to tune in. For those of you guys who are listening right now and hearing me talk about this, you may not have known that you can send in questions about anything that you want having to do with God attachment, relationship attachment, even, self-attachment. And that's something that I explore on the podcast as well. But that's something for you guys to know. So if you're watching right now on YouTube or wherever it is that you go to watch your podcast, I want to show you real quickly where you can go. So this is the last episode that I had. So this one's from last week. It's called You Can Still Trust God After Unthinkable Loss with Ashley Later. And she was great guest, talking about loss and how she dealt with that. And obviously there's tons of other episodes that you can tune in. But right there at the bottom, right under where it shows the play icon there, you'll see that it says send me questions on attachment. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the Buzzsprout site. And on the Buzzsprout site, you put send a text message. So it's not going to message my phone. It's going to send the message through Buzzsprout. And then I get to read your message. And then I can do episodes like this one. So you can also send a voicemail. So that's pretty, I just noticed that right now. So they added a new piece to this. So you could add a voicemail. That's pretty cool. Honestly, if you can do that because I can play that clip at the beginning of the episode, and it'll just kind of set us up, beautifully right before we start. So use that. Okay. Again, go to your Apple Podcast app, and right there under the play icon, you'll see send me questions on attachment, and you click on that and it'll take you to the site, and you can do that there. So great job. Thank you, Jameson. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And for those of you guys who are listening, thank you again for tuning in. I really appreciate the support, and thank you for all that you do in supporting me and listening to this episode. All right, so I'm going to read Jameson's question. And then again, this is going to be a very different type of podcast. I want to make this very conversational. Obviously, I've thought about it. I know what I want to say. I know how to address this from an attachment perspective. So I think it's going to go very well. But yeah, I just want to encourage you guys to send in questions as well. All right, let's get down to business here. This is from Jameson from North Carolina. He said, my name is Jameson. I found your podcast on anxious attachment, and it's really resonated with me. I recently got turned down by a girl I have had a crush on for a while, and I'm struggling on seeing her only as a friend and letting go of my feelings, as I see her often at various church groups. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Smiley face. Again, Jameson, thank you for your question. And I want to first say that this is a very common experience, as you can imagine, when we go to church, when we are in school, when you're hanging out, playing pickleball, doing all these different things with people from your community, you're bound, obviously, to meet someone or find someone attractive or find someone's personality attractive and so on. So it's a very common experience. And, you mentioned specifically anxious attachment. So I'm making a couple of assumptions here is maybe that you feel a little bit anxious. And obviously there's some indication here, there's some anxious attachment, but let's explore that a little bit. So first, because it resonated with you, I'm really interested to kind of think about, okay, what would it look like? What does it look like when a guy is interested in a girl? And what is it about that that makes us anxious? What is it about going up to a girl and letting her know how you feel, um, anxious? And probably the most common fears, right, is fear of rejection, which makes a lot of sense, right? No one wants to be rejected. And that is a very legitimate fear. And then there's a fear of ruining the potential friendship or relationship. It doesn't sound here from what you've shared that she was a friend. It just sounds like it's someone that you knew and that I'm guessing maybe she politely said no, which is always good. I think most Christian women try to let guys down pretty easily. They're very respectful, and obviously when they do that, it almost makes you feel more attracted to them because you like that about them, right? That they were kind and gentle even with their nose, as opposed to someone who would be very rude and maybe put you down for even wanting to ask her out. That's not the feeling that I'm getting here. So it sounds like you picked a good girl that you were interested in, right? So you mentioned then, and I'm struggling on seeing her only as a friend and letting go of my feelings. So I don't know how long you guys have been friends. That plays a role. And obviously how long you've liked her, that's another factor here. But let's say, for example, that you have been friends for 3 to 6 months. Okay. Means that you've been hanging out, you are have maybe same types of friends or hang around similar circles, and you've seen her enough where you've grown an interest in her. Okay, so if that's the case, you've been able to, over a span of time, develop some feelings. Now, it's likely, very likely, that you probably were attracted to her at some point in the first couple of weeks, maybe the first month, right? And then it was just a matter of evaluating and seeing, okay, what do I like about this girl other than how she looks, right? Because we do want to choose someone who has not just a great personality, someone who loves Jesus, someone who loves people, someone who is attentive to the needs of others, right? Everyone has their own preferences. I'm just throwing some things out there. But there's something about her that caught your attention, right? And you mentioned that you're struggling with seeing her only as a friend. And this is always tricky, right? Because the common belief is that if I ask her out, is it going to ruin the friendship? And so again, I have questions just about, well, how close are you guys as friends? So if you've only known each other for 3 to 6 months, you still haven't built such a sustainable friendship or a deep friendship where you feel attached as a friend specifically. And there are other situations where maybe, you've known each other for a couple of years. You went to school together and you've been able to get to know each other on a deeper level. You've met their family members. So that's a different level of closeness. But there's more security in that because you know them enough where, okay, I know that if she says yes, great, we're going to go on a date and it'll be fun. It'll just be like we spend time when we're around our friends. But if you're still getting to know more about her, in the 3 to 6 months that you've known her, again, just throwing a number out there, I'm guessing, I'm trying to give all different types of scenarios here. Um, then the risk is, well, I might ruin my chances if I ask her out. And maybe that's what you want. Maybe that's exactly what you want. If you don't know her well enough to see, okay, how is she going to respond? What is she going to say? And even if she does say no, what do I do with that afterwards, right? Which is your situation. And by the way, and this is just for all guys in general, kudos to you for going up to her and asking her out. I really just want to encourage you in that because at least from what I hear and even from what I see, I mean, I've talked to friends who sometimes are just afraid to go ask the girl that they like, ask her out. And I said, dude, do you like her? What do you like about her? Sounds like a great girl. Go ask her out, right? Take the chance. And you did that. So I do want to affirm that and congratulate you on that. Obviously, the tough part here is the rejection piece, right? And, we would like to know why. Like, why did she say no, right? And from an anxious attachment style, that makes sense because in our minds, we would like to think that if I know why, then I'd feel a little bit better about that. But the reality is that we wouldn't because the anxious attachment style typically has a higher view of other people and a negative view of self. So if she rejected me, there must be something wrong with me or something she didn't like about me, something that I might have said that turned her off, that just didn't connect with her, right? It must have been something I did that pushed her away, right? So that's where we get into that questioning of, is it me, right? It has to do with an identity piece. And if you've listened to the podcast, you know that anxious attachment, one of the things that they fear is abandonment or is fear of being rejected, which is something that's common for most people, but specifically for the anxiously attached is this fear of being abandoned, right? Or the fear of being rejected, not just in dating, just rejected by people in general, right? But the belief is that they have a higher view of others, like they're good, they must have done everything right, and I did something wrong. The anxiously attached often puts a lot of blame on themselves, so they overcorrect or they try to do too much to make things better, right? So much so that they take the blame for everything. So if you're feeling that, again, I just want to empathize with that and let you know that, again, that's part of the discovery that you're trying to do is why did it have that type of effect on me? Now, I'm not hearing that based on what you're sharing. Again, I'm trying to extend this and create this episode and try to think of all the possible experiences that people may have. But to your particular case, you said you're struggling with seeing her only as a friend moving forward. And this is a very subjective case or type of situation, type of response that you're going to have, right? Some people can take that rejection and say, okay, totally understand. We'll continue to be friends and hang out whenever. Okay. So some people can do that. Some people can't. Like if you're around her and you still have those lingering feelings for her and you feel like, the more you're around her, the more you like her and, you don't want to have those feelings, and that's going to be hard. Like you're going to have to make a decision that doesn't put you in the position of having those feelings. So it could be just some time away. You know, maybe now when all the friends go hang out, maybe it's not going out to those things for a little while. Because she's going to be there, and those feelings are going to stir up internally for you again, and you just don't want that to continue to happen because you're going to have this, vacillating feeling of I still like her, but I can't go out with her anymore because she said no, and so it just continues to go into that pattern of thinking. So, what would be my suggestion in regarding to manage that? Again, you have to deal with those emotions yourself, right? Those feelings of identity or why is it that it's hard for you to see her only as a friend? It may just be that you need time to away from her because you can't help really how you feel when you're with this person unless you move out of that same area that they're in, right? Physical space, emotional space, mental space, right? Now, some people might say, well, why? That's so immature. That's so childish. Why are we're grown-ups? We should be able to deal with this. But again, what people need to understand is these are attachment styles that are built over a long period of time, that it's reinforcing a belief that they're trying to maybe battle through, but all of the evidences in their lives point to there's something wrong with you, right? And if you're having that feeling, Jameson, then it's going to be one of those things where, yeah, you need to do the opposite of what you've been doing to try to get a different type of evidence, right? If you've gone up to, let's say, six girls, five girls, let's say, in the last year, just to ask them out, and each one of them has said no, that the evidence that you're looking at are those no's, and you're creating meaning from those no's and saying there must be something wrong with me. Again, speaking from an anxious attachment style, if that's the place that you're in, then that's typically the conversation. There's something wrong with me because every time that I've asked the girl out, they always say no, right? So is it my approach? Is it something about my personality? Is it something that I said? Could I have asked it differently, right? If you're crafting that text, you're wondering, okay, what should I say? Is this going to catch her attention? Like all of these different things The anxiously attached person is trying to create the environment to be finally accepted. And every attempt, when it ends up with a rejection or a no, it just reinforces the belief that there's something wrong with me, right? And again, if that's your belief, we need to do the opposite of that. So, for a while, it's going to be, well, I know how I feel or how I felt when I was around this person. And if it was more anxiety, then you need to start seeking people who don't give you that same feeling. So you want to be around other secure people or people who make you feel even good about yourself, right? These are friends who are encouraging. If you have encouraging parents, if you have siblings who are encouraging, though not likely, at least for me, we pick on each other, we make fun of each other, a sibling rivalry type of thing. But we love each other, right? And when we do good things, we encourage each other. So if you have that with siblings, your friends, whoever it is, find encouraging people and be around them. Because again, the people that are closest to you are the ones that can speak life into you, right? And, then there's the other part of, okay, what does this mean for me as a Christian, right? Because maybe a question or a prayer that you're going to have is, Lord, I see these girls who are godly girls. They love you, they love people. And, I take my shots and I want to get to know them. I want to date some of them. But I always end up with a rejection. Like, why is this happening to me? Should I just wait? And this is a common question too. Like, should the guy just wait and see if girls come up to him or if some girl shows interest? Like, it's one of those things where that's the wrestling, right? Most girls don't. Most girls aren't going to come up to you and ask you out, especially Christian girls, right? Typically, there's more of that role of the guy asks the girl out, right? But you're not going to have a girl come up to you and tell you how she feels about you, right? Typically, I'm talking in generalities here, right? So for the anxiously attached, they're having this conversation with the Lord, like, Lord, I mean, I've asked so and so out, I have asked this girl out, and they're great girls, and for whatever reason, it's not working out. Like, what's going on here? I want to honor you. I want to build a life with someone so that we can honor you together. And everything that I try is not working. Is there something wrong with me? Am I not praying enough? Then your God attachment starts to come into play, right? So not only is your relationship attachment being questioned, now you're questioning your relationship with God. Like, am I not doing enough? Like, Lord, what else do I need to do so that I can be appealing to these Christian girls? Like, what else can I do there? And again, that's where you can grow in your relationship with God, or it might even push you away. It might make you feel worse about yourself. Like, you know what? God's probably not blessing me because, things from my past, I did some things that I'm ashamed of. And maybe that's why God hasn't blessed me with someone yet, right? Could be a conversation. Another thing could be, well, maybe, I need to be more committed. Like, you're involved in everything, you're doing all the right things, you're reading your Bible, you're praying, you're seeking community, you're investing in people, sharing the gospel, you're doing all of the right things, and still you don't have someone. And the belief could be is, Lord, what else do I need to do so you can bless me? Or what am I doing wrong? Right? And obviously in our minds and in our heads, we know that the right thing or the belief that we should have as believers is to trust God in the process and say, Lord, I leave it all in your hands. And I want to trust you throughout this process. But it's been hard. You can share those things, right? This is real life. Like, you can share those emotions that you're having about the frustrations or discouragement that you're experiencing in wanting to pursue someone. Like, you can do that, right? Oftentimes we either close up or we shame ourselves or we think we need to do more, right? Just share those feelings. It can really deepen your relationship with the Lord as you seek Him out, right? So allow for this experience to press you closer into the Lord. But what we often do is, Lord, I trust you, and then you just leave it at that. And then here's a big thing too, is that if you have these multiple experiences where you're being rejected, it's very, very easy, even after two or three rejections, to stop trying and to say, you know what? I'm just not going to try anymore. I'm not going to try this anymore, and it's just not worth it anymore. The rejection is too painful. It's too much. I don't want to do this anymore. Right. So then what happens is they say, well, I'm just going to trust God to do what he does. And they just kind of passively wait. And there could be a very kind, sweet Christian girl who he's interested in, and he won't do anything because he wants to just wait on the Lord. And waiting on the Lord means some sort of sign a girl is going to come up to him and tell him that she wants to marry him and all these things, right? They wait for the best outcome where they don't have to do anything. Personally, I don't think that that's a right approach. I think you still continue to do the asking out and trusting God to open doors and close doors, right? But it can be very discouraging. Um, so I do want to empathize with that. So this is a very complex situation. Um, so as for those of you guys who are listening, as you're thinking about if you want to share or ask a question, be as detailed as you can so I can really address your question specifically. And Jameson, obviously, you're my first uh, um, listener who submitted this request or this question, and I really appreciate it. So I hope that I'm touching on some things that are relatable to your experience, and that you're able to see the heart behind it. But yeah, man, I just want to again just encourage you. Now, let me see. I think there's one more piece here that I may have missed. I'm struggling to see her only as a friend and letting go of my feelings as I see her often at various church groups. Okay, so I do want to address this piece. Letting go of your feelings often means just shutting down, right? I don't want to feel this anymore. I don't want to think about her anymore. I still can see her as a friend, but I don't want to have these romantic feelings towards her, right? That's really hard to shut off when you're um, seeing her all of the time, right? So you kind of have to narrate a different type of story around you and her, right? That you don't make it about there's something wrong with you, but you make it about maybe, you know what? Maybe this is, and this is a classic cliche, it's redirection, not rejection type thing. Um, I get the sentiment, but it doesn't really connect at a deep level for those who have been rejected. But one way that you can look at this is you know what? She's still such a great girl. And I appreciate knowing someone like her. And if I find someone who is like her, I think now I have a better idea of what I'm looking for, right? You can kind of frame it in that way because what that does is it puts the responsibility on you and not on external factors or other people, right? Like you now know based on what you've seen in this girl, this friend, what you like, right? There's a reason why you wanted to ask her out. You saw some qualities in her that you liked. And had she said yes, you would have gone to know even more about her, right? So at least on the surface, you know some things that you like about her. So now you can use that as a template. Is like, okay, when I see that because that drew me in, I want to ask that type of girl out. Okay. So you might find someone else down the road who has those same attributes and you might feel attracted to that, right? And again, you'll have an idea. So you ask her out, and if things are able to go on a first date, you learn more in that first date. If there's a second date, you learn more and more, right? So see it more as an opportunity to learn about the things that you enjoy about the type of women that you want to date. So it could be an opportunity for that, just for more clarity on the type of girl that you're looking to serve the Lord with. Okay. Um, and again, don't make this about your identity, meaning that there's nothing wrong with you as a person. Okay. You can reframe this in a way of saying, again, the Lord, um, I've been able to draw closer to the Lord because of this, because I have so many questions. I've had so much doubt about myself, maybe lack of confidence, whatever the case is. Talk to the Lord about those things. Talk to Him about the feelings that you have for this girl, right? I do, for those of you guys who know me, I do a lot of things where they don't come off as, gosh, how do I phrase this? I'm even trying to figure out how I would phrase this. I wouldn't be considered the romantic type. I guess we can say that. But I think one of the things that I've learned about myself is I'm actually a hopeless romantic. I love hearing stories about people who get together after, be it a long pursuit, or it could be people who were friends for a long time and one of them wasn't interested. Typically, it's the girl who's not interested, and then eventually the guy kind of persists and pursues, and he wins her over. And I just love that. I actually heard there was a couple I met last year at a wedding, and I was able to talk to them. I said, "So how'd you guys meet?" and so on, and they shared that story. And she said, "Yeah, I just wasn't attracted. It had nothing to do with it. I just wasn't attracted to him." And then the second time, it was we were both in different places in our lives, and then he still asked her out a third time, and then finally, they started dating, and obviously they became friends and got married and so on. So I love hearing those stories of other people. It's very heartwarming, I guess you can say. But I love those stories. I love hearing that. And Jameson, I don't know if this is going to be the case for you, but if it does, please let me know. I would be so happy to hear from you if that were to happen. But again, for right now, if there's any advice, as I said earlier, that I can give yourself some space. If you find that you can be around her, and again, just seeing her as a friend means that you treat her as a friend. That doesn't mean that the feelings are going to go away, if that makes sense, right? Just treat her as a friend as you were before you asked her out, and let the feelings go away with time. Just give it time, right? It's not going to go away. You can do that. Or if you find that to be too difficult, where the feelings get too strong, then create some space, avoid situations or outings and hangouts where she's going to be there, right? Maybe your heart and your mind needs a little bit of space between that. Okay. And then lastly, again, your identity, obviously rooted and founded in Christ, but even in that, you're allowed to feel, or you're still going to feel these things that are very real to the human experience. Okay. So allow those things to just be there and ask your questions to the Lord. Seek community, right? Get together with your guy friends and just hang out with them. Seek out community. And then again, now you also have a template, or at least some other characteristics and qualities of what you'd be looking for in a future spouse or dating partner, whichever one. Well, dating does lead to marriage, so you know what I'm saying. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening to this podcast. Again, it feels very different. I kind of like this style, though. It was, I feel like I was able to be in a one-on-one conversation with Jameson. So, Jameson, thank you again for sharing your question. And again, I do want to encourage everyone else, if you have a question, please send them. I would love to do another episode like this. And obviously, this then also allows me to think about other topics that you guys are considering or thinking about, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. Well, thank you again. I will see you guys next week. Have a good one, and feel free to share this episode. Thanks.